All right, so I'm going to be talking about 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 1 to 25. Um, so as I'm reading this, what I thought was interesting is that Paul uses the word foreigners a lot, which is a little bit interesting, being as, especially in today's time, we don't really refer to people, unbelievers, as foreigners. The distinction that they are different from us um, is something not really that heard of. Um, Maybe that being outside the church, they're maybe of the world or something like that. But the idea that they are actual foreigners is a little bit weird. Um, but at the same time, I find it really interesting, being as recently there seems to be um, this big thing about going out into the world and spreading the gospel, spreading the love of Jesus throughout the world. And in reality, the way I see it is people want us to go to other countries, to foreigners, and to spread the good word of Jesus. But when you think about it in the terms that Paul is saying in this chapter, um, Paul isn't referring to telling people in Corinth to go across the sea and to talk to people. He's referring to the people that are in the same city as these people, the people in the Corinth church, and it's it's uh, it's interesting to see that he's using the word foreigners to refer to people, our neighbors, people right outside our front doors, not people that are across the seas and in different nations, um, which I find awesome. All this emphasis on going across seas when in all reality it's really comes down to, do we have a right as a country so lost to go to other countries and spread the word of God? Um, Now, don't take me wrong. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. Of course, it's not a bad thing. We need to spread the word throughout the world. Um, but on the other hand, the way I also see it is that when people talk about uh, their mission trip, they talk about how they, well, in general, they talked to these people. And the word there that I want to highlight is the word they talked to people. And when it comes to people in our own city, visitors to our own church, we don't just talk to them. We speak to them in unintelligible words. They don't understand what people don't understand what we're saying. And I found it's very interesting, being as actually just yesterday, um, I was praying to God and um, I had the word unapproachable come to my mind. The idea that we've become unapproachable, uh, which at first I have no idea what that meant. But after reading this and Paul talking about, telling us not to talk to people in an unintelligible way, that word of prophecy means so much more to the unbeliever, that I realized that this is why we're unapproachable. Being that us, the people of God, the true Christians in the world, don't approach people on a normal basis. But the ones who do approach the people, the unbeliever people outside the church, are the megaphone people, the people like that who just scream out Christianese to everybody. They speak in a foreign language to everybody, and everyone just takes them as crazy. Like Paul says later on in the chapter, Um, where is it? Here in verse 23, it talks about, even so, if unbelievers or people who don't understand these things come into your church meeting and hear everyone speaking in an unknown language, they will think you are crazy, which is exactly what I see the world as viewing us to begin with. They all see us as crazy, being as the ones who are willing to speak in intelligible languages are the same ones hiding behind the church. And the ones who are clearly lost in their faith um, are the ones also who are speaking out to the people, um, which isn't really a good sign for us, being that the people speaking out to the people, the unbelievers right now, are the ones screaming that um, you're going to hell. If you get an abortion, you're going to hell. You're gay, you're going to hell. And I mean, of course those ideas hold some truth. Abortion is wrong, but at the same time, we can't attack like that. It holds no real meaning to an unbeliever, to a mind that is already clouded, just to attack the rim of the cloud as the decision they're making right now, but not attacking the source of this cloud that's clouding their judgment. And so this is what I've been getting from this chapter, being again that this seems to all be about um, speaking in a way people can understand. Being that this is the Church of Corinth as well, there's also has to be this strong emphasis, being that it's one of the first churches that Paul started. It would have been a new church in the town of Corinth as well. And with that being said, the people in the church were they were the first kind of thing. So it was their job to go to the rest of the city and spread it. But because the people in this church were so filled with fusio, like he was said in class, and um, just this idea again that they have something the unbelievers don't have, kind of thing, rather than seeing it as I have something that I want you to have as well. And you can almost see that, I believe, in the way that Paul found it necessary to tell this church that speaking to unbelievers in tongues doesn't help, unless in the special circumstance listed below that when you speak in tongues, it just happens to be in words that the unbeliever understands. But being that doesn't happen very often, um, there has to be a distinction almost between when we speak in tongues to edify ourselves and to speak straight to God, and when we speak in prophecy in order to edify the church and to bring more people into the church. Which, again, I think it has to be a major goal for this church, and it should be a major goal for our church now. We should be out there prophesying to people, not just making a skeptical of ourselves and screaming out in Christianese and hoping people understand us, but actually speaking into their lives. And in all honesty, I want to say speaking into their lives truthfully. Um, Personally, I've dealt with people who have tried to speak into my life, but say completely ridiculous things. I once had someone actually prophesy that one day I will have a sex change. And yeah, I don't see that happening. I'm quite comfortable being a man. Um, but that just proves my point. I mean, some, again, with the people who just blurt out these things, just because they feel either they need to or that this is the way to bring people into church. And in reality, the in that way, we think about it. I think about it as one, they're lying to people, and the other is they're speaking. They're trying to speak in a way that would be intelligible, but the fact that it's turned into a lie makes it not. And that almost pushes people farther away from understanding um, what we're trying to share with them or preach to them. So, oh, okay, well, I've gone over time. So let me just sum up by saying, yeah, like I've been saying, that this is what I believe this chapter is telling us. Um, Maybe a combination of what the chapter is telling us and what has been spoken to me either by uh, God or other people in my life, um, or through my own pondering, I guess. Just that, yeah, there should be um, an emphasized importance on viewing people, viewing our neighbors, the people just outside our church, as foreigners, people who don't understand. But it is our job to not quench that non-understanding, but to almost obliterate it. Be the people who make it understandable. Um, Trying to think of the word Paul uses. I've used it a bunch of times and I totally forgot what the word was. Um, Intelligible. Trying to make the unintelligible intelligible, which I said in my paper as well. And that should be our jobs. And I saw a video the other day that I really liked. It was a missions video, but it wasn't talking just about um, as I find most mission speakers do, as they talk about um, the importance of going overseas to other countries to spread the word, when in, like I said earlier, in reality, outside our front door, our people may be more lost than people across the sea. And I believe that should be our goal, and that was the goal of these Corinth people, to spread the word of God through their own city. And that should be a major goal for us as well. Churches are shrinking, very much shrinking, and that is something that should be dealt with. It shouldn't be something that should just be lived with. We need to get out of our cages in our church and go out into the world. We're so comfortable in these cages. People can see us, but they can't interact with us. And that's just, that's unacceptable, really. We need to break free, break out of the church almost. Um, Not saying a church is a bad thing, obviously. Church is a very good thing. But we need to break out of the doors and go into the communities surrounding our churches and make us as Christians more accessible. Not the faith is accessible enough. The people just need to come. But the people are what make the faith to unbelievers. And because we speak in unintelligible ways and just confuse people more, it doesn't help. Anyways, I thank you for watching. Um, I hope you can cope with my rambling. I tend to do that when I speak. So, um, yeah. Being that I'm posting this on YouTube, um, if this isn't my professor, I would say I encourage you to read this problem section of First Corinthians, which is chapter 14, verses 1 to 25. Um, and just meditate on it. And a question I want to leave with, the remaining last question, is just the question, um, why am I unapproachable? Thanks for watching, and I ask that you do ponder that question because it's an important one.